Hello, this is Matt Helton with One Trust Home Loans, your reverse mortgage experts, and you found the Serving Senior podcast, where we highlight those businesses and those professionals that help seniors not just get by, not just survive, but thrive in retirement. And today we have another one of those awesome people here that serves seniors. We have Miss PJ Olson, and PJ has a business called Restorative Strength. And she's going to share with you today how she uses her platform to help seniors have better retirements, have healthier retirements, and enjoy their self in their golden years. PJ, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Matt. Thank you so much for having me on board. I love talking about this stuff. So
Hey,
thank
you're
you.
so welcome. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And you're usually, making movements and dancing. So hopefully we can at least get you to sit down and stay put for a few minutes. PJ's got some of the most energy that you'll see out there and just has an awesome infection personality. So she's going to share with you what she does. Heck, she may even get up and move a little bit during the episode. But PJ, maybe if you could just give a little background. People like to know who you are and where you're from, and goodness gracious, how did you get to this point to do what you do? Just maybe give us some background if you could.
Sure, yeah. So I am a holistic movement specialist,
Okay.
as well as a brain health specialist, as well as a functional strength trainer. So basically, it all ties together, and it is specifically for the aging population. That's really where my
Okay.
heart goes. Yeah.
Got it.
So it started off just a little background. In 2013, I was in my 29th year of a 30-year career in the music industry, of all things,
Okay.
primarily working for record labels. And at the time, my mom had been showing signs of Alzheimer's
Got
for
it.
several years and finally had been diagnosed about 2013 or so. And at the same time, I was having this aha moment. It was like a lightning bolt that struck me one morning. I woke up and I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Wow.
It's like, who am I impacting? What is my legacy? Is anyone going to remember me? It was just kind of a crazy thing. And it really was kind of based on how my dad led his life, both my parents, but my dad specifically with his company. So it just kind of left a mark on me that day. And I didn't act on it right away. I was busy with trying to get work done, but at the same time trying to caregive from a distance for both my mom and my dad. Because my mom at the end of 2013 was forcibly placed into memory care to live out the rest of her life because of a psychotic episode she had had at home with my
Okay.
dad. So there was a lot going on with the family, and then I had a lot going on with work. Work was not as rewarding as it was, and I still had this thing in the back of my mind. I love teaching fitness. It had become a side hustle. And lo and behold, 2014, so a year after that, I get a phone call from the general manager at the record label I was working for, the last one I had been at for 8 years. And he informed me the company was closing, and
Okay.
therefore I wouldn't have any work with them at the end of 2014. And instead of being like in despair, which would be a normal response, I started laughing.
Wow.
And I remember him saying, well, that's not the response I was thinking I was going to get. But it kind of told me that this was the universe's pushed to
Sure.
go do what you want to do, go where your heart is leading you, and then you'll just figure it out. So that was kind of how I jumped into leaving a 30-year career behind me and starting something brand new. And that's
Wow.
when I started. Well, actually, first I started teaching kettlebell classes. Kettlebell, if
Okay.
anyone doesn't know, it's
Yep.
those look like a cannonball with a handle.
Okay.
I started teaching that, and then I was taking on some private clients with this movement system that I was teaching. And in 2015, that's when a friend of mine, my former kettlebell coach, said, you should call your company Restorative Strength. And so there it was born,
There it was
and
born.
that's what I've been doing for the last 10, almost 10 years now.
Okay, that's fantastic. And maybe tell us, has it always been with seniors? Has it been for all different age groups, or how did
Yeah.
you even get to gravitate towards the senior side?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking that. It's a great question. It always was 50 and over.
Okay.
And part of that was after I got certified to teach kettlebell classes. I was in my early 50s, and I suddenly started noticing that my peers really couldn't move very well. They couldn't squat down to the floor to play with the grandchildren or kids, or even pick something up easily. And I thought, I need to help these people. I need to help them. And so it really started off more with people in their 40s and 50s and in early 60s, helping them, restore their mobility, improve their strength, get back to doing the things they love. But I started noticing that the people who started showing up for me became older and older and older.
Okay.
And so next thing I knew, I had people in their 60s, more in their 60s and 70s coming to me who wanted to stay physically active. So it started getting a little bit older, and I realized how much I loved working with that age group because the when you can take someone who's kind of what we call in their golden years, like they're supposed to be golden, and they're looking just for a great quality of life and just staying active and being social with people, to see them get from being where they don't want to be social and active because of stiffness, pain,
Yeah,
injury, surgery, all that stuff, to actually like going, oh wow, my family is enjoying having me around again to play with the
sure.
grandkids. And then in 2017, I had another lightning bolt from
Okay.
above that I woke up and I was like, I think I'm supposed to work with people with Parkinson's disease. I
Wow.
have no idea where that came from, but it kept staying with me. And I became certified as a rock steady boxing coach. And it's a specific program for coaches who want, or anyone really who wants to work with people with Parkinson's. So I attended that, and then I went and volunteered with a local gym that was teaching some Parkinson's classes just to kind of get my feet wet,
Okay.
working, just to see what could happen in a room full of people who have some, a lot of physical limitations.
Sure.
And then I started my own classes. And so that was 2018 when I started teaching fitness classes specifically geared towards people with Parkinson's, which was enormously rewarding because the transformation, for anyone who doesn't know the research, which is probably a lot of people, but research has shown that people with Parkinson's, if they take up a an exercise program, that they can actually slow down the progression of the symptoms of the disease, and sometimes um, even show some of those symptoms actually will start to dissipate a little
Wow.
bit. The disease never goes away, but when they can go from not being able to walk independently, and do all those things independently, and then suddenly being able to, be around everyone and look as if nothing's wrong, it just changes the whole landscape for them.
Wow. That's amazing. That's awesome. Thank you for the background story. Uh, if you could share with us too, I was going to ask you what some of your superpowers are that's helping you serve these seniors, but I can already tell one is you just have your radar up, I'll call it, and you actually listen because a lot of people have oh, maybe I'm supposed to do this, do that, but it seems like you're in tune, I guess we'll say in tune with the universe or a higher power, and you actually act on it. So that's fantastic that you do that, but maybe share some other superpowers that you have that's allowing you to serve these seniors.
Well, one of the things I learned, and actually it was in a personal growth course that I took, a gentleman named Darren Hardy um, broke down the different generations and what they were, what they were around when they were in certain age, in those early age groups. And so it helped me understand the older generation because, and when I say older generation, because I am a baby boomer, but I'm also on the younger end of the baby boomers, is that our aging population, especially anyone who's probably 65 and over, the word exercise really has a negative connotation.
Mm.
And it's because of what we were around, what was presented to us when we were growing up. And so for a lot, especially for a lot of women, because Title IX, which again, I don't assume anyone really knows what that is,
Yeah.
but Title IX, which finally put into place women's sports
Yeah.
in girl sports in at the junior high and high school level, didn't even come into play until I want to say 50 some years ago.
Okay.
It hasn't been really all that long. So someone who is 70 Title IX was not in place, so they probably took up music or choir or something
Okay.
else rather
Yeah.
than, yeah. So they're just not really in tune with like the concept of going to a gym. It just isn't there for them. So I think it's very intimidating. So I try to remove the intimidation, and
Wow.
instead of calling it exercise, I call it movement. And
Mhm.
the foundation of my work is a movement system, movement restoration system called Original Strength.
Okay.
And they teach worldwide workshops, and they're working with all levels of coaches and instructors and teachers like myself. Most of them will work with more high level athletes. Because of my desire to help our aging population, gear it more towards our aging population. So I take what I've learned from them and continue to learn from them, and I think about the body and the
Wow.
history of an aging person, and really to fine tune it for them so that they can start from where they're at,
Got
so
it.
that they feel safe, they feel comfortable. And even if something doesn't feel familiar, they don't go into what we call that fight or flight
Yeah.
state of the nervous system where they can't really breathe, and their body tenses up and their breath becomes shortened. I always try to pay attention to their posture, to the look on their face and in their eyes. And if they look relaxed, then we can keep going. If suddenly you see like a little bit of like going on
Mm,
in their face, we just stop. We just
sure.
stop, take a little break, do a little resetting, and then just see where we're at. So I really do customize it for the individuals, and keep it in even if they are if in a group setting, like I do teach some classes at assisted living and in a memory care facility. If in a
Mhm.
group setting, a little more challenging because
Sure.
now I'm looking out, but I always make sure that I'm telling them as I'm leading them through the chair exercise, chair movement, movements. I always say, if something doesn't feel good, just stop, just breathe, maybe nod your head up and down,
Yep.
turn your head side to side, do a little cross crawl pattern, and then rejoin us when you're ready. And so I really encourage them to keep moving, but keep moving in a way that feels good to them.
Gotcha. That's fantastic. So you're basically able to translate this high level exercise plan that people give to athletes. You're able to learn from that and translate it to almost basically non-athletes
Yeah. Yeah.
and take it from exercise to movement. So that's all. That sounds like a great superpower is to be able to take something complicated and challenging and put it
Yeah.
on their level, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Because we have specific movements that are hardwired into our nervous
Hmm.
system from birth. So if we think from being, the coming out with no strength or any kind of anything, you're like a little blob basically with this big head. And then within 1 year, get to from that to being able to walk, you have to think about the miracle that is our bodies, right?
Sure.
And so when we take those movement patterns and start to restore them into an aging adult body, we really are starting to restore and strengthen their nervous system as well as their brain. These
Yeah.
movements are also very brain strengthening, protecting. Yeah, we can really change the quality, improve the quality of life for a lot of our
That's
aging
so awesome.
population.
That is awesome. Well, PJ, if we have some listeners that are in that, under 50-year-old range that are not exactly your clientele you're working with, but what are some advice you could give to those people so they don't end up in having to
Yeah,
fix things, if that makes
yeah.
sense? Like what should someone that's between 30 and 50 be doing to make sure they have really good golden years?
Yeah, yeah. And interesting you say that. I have a new client starting next week, 42 years old. He came as a referral from a physical therapist
Hmm.
I had never met, but he had some patients that have worked with me. And the physical therapist told this 42-year-old that, you're beyond the PT work right at this moment, but you need to find a sustainable workout exercise plan to go forward in
Okay.
life. So my big thing is if you don't know original strength and you want to learn it, I suggest you tap into them. They're all over the internet. They're excellent people. They're based out of North Carolina. But if you want to start at the grassroots of it, something a little gentler, maybe something just an entryway, I'd love to help. We really work on those, what we call the 5 basic resets. It's restoring diaphragmatic breathing. It's
Okay.
working on head control, the strength of the deep neck flexor, the ability to turn our eyes, head, and neck,
Okay.
rotation, the rolling pattern, again, rotation and movement, which is actually, believe it or not, that's where most of our adults really lose that movement pattern. And that's why you
Really?
get a lot of people playing tennis and golf that get injured a lot.
Okay.
The rocking pattern, again, that's just really an overall strengthener. And it's also very calming. And then the crawling pattern, which I take to more of a cross crawling pattern. And that's where you're just reaching across that middle of the center line, imaginary center line of the body, and making contact on the opposite side in a coordinated fashion.
Okay.
It integrates left and right hemispheres of the brain. So that's where it gets not only it's brain protective, but it also, because of how it works with the body, it actually helps with balance and coordination.
Okay.
So my advice to anyone in that age group to not poo-poo the movement system because because it can seem so simple that a lot of people, especially in that age group, like, I come from the no pain, no gain. This can't possibly work.
Sure.
And once they do understand how it works and they really start to build up that resilient body again, they're like going, man, this is the best thing ever. I'm going to continue with this as a lifestyle thing.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned something about different sides of the body,
Yeah.
different parts of the brain. So what's your opinion when they talk about, if you're depressed, you can either take medicine, but there's also studies that show that just becoming active and exercising can affect some of the same portions of the brain that the medicine actually
Yeah.
affects
Yeah.
on. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, and if I have time for a quick story, I started working with a married couple 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. The woman understood what I was teaching. The gentleman on the first session, I could tell he hated everything I was teaching.
Typical man, right?
And so they were undecided if they were going to continue with me. So the wife had said, we're going to talk. And anyway, when they called me back a couple weeks later, I thought, okay, I'm back. Let's see what happens. And I heard her saying to him, honey, did you tell PJ the story about what happened last Wednesday? Anyway, bottom line was at 4 o'clock, this gentleman has a high pressure job. He's a litigator and just always struggling with stress and anxiety. At 4 in the morning, he had what apparently was an anxiety attack, but I'll just go from
Yeah.
there. He woke up with feeling like he was having a heart attack, like his heart was pounding, his head was pounding, his stomach was burning, I mean, he was out of breath. And he said he was going through all these thoughts in his mind. Do I jump in the car and drive to the hospital? What if I'm really having a heart attack? Not a good idea. Should I wake up
Right.
the wife? Yeah. Should I
Uh,
wake up the wife? No, it's 4. She's got to get the kids up and going at
right.
6 o'clock. He said he was going through all these different scenarios. Should I call an ambulance? No, that's expensive.
Okay.
And the last thought he had was, or should I go upstairs and practice some of those silly exercises that PJ taught me?
Wow.
He went up, and within 5 minutes, his heart rate had come back closer to normal. His stomach had stopped burning. His headache was going away. He was getting his breath back to normal. And really, what it was, regulating the nervous system. He was bringing him back into that state of closer to a rest and digest,
Yeah.
parasympathetic versus that fight or flight. So yes, I do believe that, especially for some people who are geared towards physical activity, some of us are just born to move, move more than others. Yeah, and for others, it could just be something as simple as tapping on certain points, again, that are kind of working in a similar fashion, or just cross crawling. Again, what it's doing is it's working with the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain.
Okay.
And when we can regulate that and bring it back to a state of where we're, calm and relaxed again, the medication really is just, in my humble opinion, becomes just a band-aid for that. And there's so many simple things that people can do that are free. We're moving, just doing things with our body
Yeah,
that can work for them in the long time. It's just
that's awesome.
being aware. of the tools available to them. So it's really just
Yeah.
about educating them about it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like the medication would just hide the symptom, and what you teach actually could fix the problem, so it could go away instead of
Yeah.
just being hidden with medication.
Yeah, yeah, it really does strengthen the nervous system. I'm not a scientist, so actually I've been taught this stuff over and over again, but for me to actually repeat it, probably not going to happen. But I can show you how to do it.
You don't even play a scientist on the podcast, you're saying?
No.
Okay, I'm just wondering, just wondering. That's all. Well, that I was going to ask you an example of how you had an influence and how you helped somebody, but thank you for sharing that. That was a great story on how you've able to help that family. And something tells me that they hired you again after that. That was a
I've been
pretty
working with
easy.
them for 4.5 years now, every Saturday morning. So
I would
yeah,
say
it's great.
so. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Well, PJ, as we wrap this up, anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you that you'd want to share?
I think you've addressed it all. I just, again, for anyone out there that either maybe a Gen X that has a baby boomer or senior parent, or if you are the baby boomer senior, I just really encourage you to not take to heart sometimes what unfortunately is told them that, oh, it's just because you're aging, it's just
Yeah,
because you're older, because it's not that. Yes, aging has something to do with it, just because of the what we call the compound effect. So it's what you've been doing over the decades that sometimes results in the pain, stiffness, injury, whatever that has occurred. But again, the compound effect can work in the opposite direction. So if we're taking optimal movement patterns or doing optimal habits and routines, we can actually move in a much better direction and move towards, again, being able to stay independent for the long run and having a happy, healthy lifestyle and a great quality of life. Again, enjoying those golden years.
that's fantastic. And then could you share how's the best way for someone to get in touch with you to learn more about your services?
Yeah, my I have a website. It's
Okay.
called again, it's restorativestrength.com. Long
Okay.
name.
That's right.
Yeah, and they can just email me at PJ, just the initials PJ at restorativestrength.com also. But yeah, I'm
Okay.
happy to talk to anyone. I offer 30-minute free consultation. So if someone's even just looking for a little guidance, and maybe I'm not the right answer for them, but I might be able to direct them somewhere where they can really get the help that they need. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, PJ, thank you for sharing. And I know some people may consider this a luxury, right? Well, I just got to get by. I'm not worried about this, and I got to get through the month. Sometimes I have more month than money. So
Yeah.
how am I going to afford, exercise and this and that? And that's why I love being involved with people like you, because like we were sharing earlier, sometimes people have the money, they just don't know it. And it's in the form of their home equity, right? Because like we talked about, people only do what they're forced to do, and they maybe bought a house, and because the bill came in every month and they wanted to stay there, they
Yeah.
made the payments every single month and happened to pay all of it or a big chunk of their home off, and the market was good to them. The only positive about inflation is it inflates assets, and a home's an asset. So the values have shot up. So that's where we come in, that we can show seniors how they could use a small portion of their home equity to pay for things like exercise with you, healthcare. They can pay for spoiling their grandkids. They can pay to work on their home. They can pay whatever they want to pay for. But in what we do, they still own their house. They could sell it if they ever wanted to. They're just using a small portion, but they're not locked in for a huge monthly payment. So
Oh,
that's why we
yeah.
love partnering with you. If we can help them get a little money to do something so beneficial to them and their health, it's a win-win.
Yeah, yeah. It's in an investment in their health and their long term. Again, I my whole goal is to empower the person with the knowledge and tools of what can keep them going. So if they can only work with me for 8 sessions, or come to my little Zoom classes, that I'm really trying to teach them how to do this on their own, so that they don't have to keep putting out the money.
Yep. Yep. You can tell how much energy PJ would give off in a Zoom meeting. So you can take that, but if you want to really take it to the next level, meet her in person, and you've got a whole nother thing coming.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, PJ, you've been a blessing today, and thank you for sharing your message. Thank you for all you're doing. We really
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I really
Yes,
appreciate it,
ma'am.
and I've enjoyed speaking with you today.
Speaking with you, and thank you for watching the Serving Senior podcast. Please make sure you subscribe and please share this with your friends. We'd love to continue to add value to you, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you again. You have a great day. Talk to you soon.